Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, the whole crew styling when we step out of the car. Bouncers lift the rope and the crowd goes off. 20 shots to the table, we don't even hit the bar.
Want to welcome back our audience and our listeners here to another edition of Inspicio Arts in collaboration with the Florida International University Ratcliffe Art and Design Incubator. And this is sort of our summer series, right, Ray?
It's always summer when I'm around you, Maggie, and it's
It
always
really
so
is
good.
100 degrees out there, Ray. Such fascinating personalities as always on Inspicio Arts. And our next one is ETIENNE Charles.
So Etienne was unknown to me, but apparently you have seen him perform.
I have, and when I saw him on the Inspicio Arts, I really went in and looked, and I think he has those fabulous ivory colored glasses that he wears. But besides being that fabulous, he's a musician. He's from Trinidad. He's a performer, composer, and storyteller. And he's got quite a couple of achievements. There are a 2015 Guggenheim Fellow, and as well as a 2022 Creative Capital Award. So let's kick it off there.
And he also went to two great music colleges, to Berklee College of Music in Boston and to Juilliard. So he's got quite a track record. And interestingly, when I was interviewing him, he's also an educator. He teaches at the University of Miami and other places, including a high school in the town I grew up in, Walnut Hills High School. He taught there for a while. And when I asked him about teaching, he said, well, I've kind of been teaching since I was 6 years old. And he explained what he meant by that. And he's always trying to inform people and expose them to new ideas. And I think that's what fascinating me about the kind of music he makes, because one of the questions I asked him, what's the biggest challenge for your genre of music? And he said, trying to put my music in a genre is my biggest challenge, because I have so many different areas that I'm interested in. I don't want to be pigeonholed, and people won't know, are a little confused about how to book me. Am I a jazz musician? Am I a Caribbean music? Am I classical? You know, what is it? And I think that one of the fascinating things about him is that he brings so many different kinds of instruments on stage with him, many of which he can play, but he plays the trumpet primarily. And so he'll have, people that are drumming on blocks of wood, people, playing steel drums, all kinds of different things. But the thing that fascinated me the most was that he collaborates with a filmmaker, and they film different kinds of musical groups all over the world, and especially in the Caribbean. And then they put them on a giant video projection behind him while he's playing music with his group. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. You have this image going. I said, but you don't have the sound on, do you? He said, oh, yeah, we have the sound on. It's like having another instrument in the group that we, what's the word, improvise to, like a jazz group. Well, people play off each other, and that's what they do with the various videos that they have being projected behind them. So I've never heard of anybody doing that before, and maybe other people do it, but it was new to me, and I found that fascinating.
So do you think that his inspiration for this music comes from his Trinidad background?
I asked him, as I do everybody, what was your first awareness of art of any discipline? He said, well, my father's a musician, so that was one part of it. And so he grew up listening to all kinds of different music, but his aunt was is an artist, and so he grew up with visual art as well. And I think he's a very aware, inquiring, curious person who was constantly taking in stimulus and then putting it through his who he is and coming out with something new. The other thing, I said, my God, he didn't come here until he was 15 years old, and his English is not notably accented. And he said, well, I do a lot of code switching, like a lot of people do, but I code switch with Spanish, with French, with Creole, with English, various things. So he's able to communicate with people because he wants to speak in the language they'll understand.
So what do you think makes him special? I always ask this. Why interview him?
I think that whole notion about not being put in a box, the idea, in fact, that would be anathema to him, the idea that he would be playing one kind of music for the rest of his life. I can't imagine that for him. And I think he will always be pushing the envelope and coming up with new ways to do things. He's an innovator, and I think that's what's really special, but more so than anybody I've ever encountered.
Excellent. All these personalities on the Inspicio website are always very unique, Ray, in their own niche. So we congratulate you once again for bringing these different personalities for us to be inspired and learn about.
And I should add that all three people that we just spoke about, Sebastian Younger, Susan Orlean, and ETIENNE Charles, are going to be in the forthcoming new edition of the Inspicio Arts Magazine, Arts Magazine, which is volume 8, number 1. So we've been doing this for 16 years, and not 16 years, sorry, 8 years.
You doubled the time, Ray.
Yeah.
So Ray, 8 years of Inspicio Arts, is that what it is?
Yes, I was trying to impress you.
I want to add to that while Inspicio celebrates it's your 8th year, right?
Right.
The Florida International University Ratcliffe Art and Design Incubator is in its 5th year.
That's shocking because we all remember when it was inaugurated, and it seems like it was yesterday. So maybe not for you, but for me.
I want to celebrate both Inspicio Arts and the Ratcliffe, and also the work of Dr. Jacek Kolansinski, Dimitri Shami, and Neil Ramsey, who are the founders of the incubator. And of course, we want to thank Dean Schreiner for his leadership and his vision in supporting both projects.